So a whole bunch of CNN polls have just dropped. They dropped yesterday. And so we're going to go over those just a little bit, see what some of the top lines and some of the crosstabs are with those, and see how this changes the electoral map. Because I am starting to think now there is going to be a little bit of a difference when it comes to the Democratic play, when it comes to getting to that 270 number. Now, for me, as I just mentioned in the recent video I did about Nevada and looking at how Nevada is going to play out, please check that one out if you haven't seen it yet. I do believe that the Democrats are going to win Nevada because at the end of the day, the Harry Reid machine, the culinary workers union, all that, they're able to mobilize their voters in order to show up to vote, especially the last 10 years. So I think this is going to be something that the Democrats are going to have, that they're going to win Nevada. And if they win Nevada, then all of a sudden Pennsylvania isn't a must for the Democrats. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the CNN polls that came out today, compare those to the exit polls from 2020, because, you know, exit polls aren't likely voters or anything. Those are real, raw voters coming out of the voting booth after they're done voting and telling people who they voted for. So that's the best. If we're looking at attitudinal data, that's the best attitudinal data that we can have. So we're going to look at the CNN polls state by state, compare those to the exit polls, and then see where the Electoral College might be. Now, the only thing with these CNN polls I thought was weird was that they didn't poll North Carolina, an extremely close state. A video that I'm going to be doing the North Carolina analysis next week along with Arizona. So those are going to be the analyses that are coming out next week. But I'm just kind of surprised they didn't have that. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to our first poll. So our first poll that we have here is Georgia. And if we can look right here at the total number, we see that it is obviously within the margin of error, which most of these are, and it's a slight bump for Harris, 48 to 47. We see the male distribution, the female distribution, white and black distribution. And if we look at the CNN exit poll, we see these distributions are about the same. So if we come down, if we look at gender, 55 to 43 for men, we have 53 to 43 for men in this one. And then we got 54 to 45 for women, 53 to 43 for women for Kamala Harris in this one. This seems about right. And if we look at the white vote, 69 to 30, 68 to 29, almost spot on. And the black vote, 85 to 10, 88 to 11. So this poll out of Georgia looks real good as far as the gender and the racial distribution. Unfortunately, the age numbers that they have in the exit poll are different than the ones they have in the CNN poll that was just released, so we really can't compare those. So if we look at these two crosstabs, this looks like a good poll. It looks like a good poll for Kamala Harris as well. All right, so now let's go to the CNN poll out of Nevada, and we see the same number, 47 to 48, favoring Harris. Now, Harris is losing quite badly amongst male voters, 57 to 39, but winning amongst female voters. How does that compare to what we had previously? So this is where it might be a little bit different. If we look at male voters in 2020 with the exit poll in Nevada, we see that it's 51 to 46. So this number really skews in the favor of Donald Trump. Now, if we look at the female number, 55 to 39, well, we have 54 and then 44 there. So that helps Kamala Harris a little bit. But if we look at the male number, this is very much lopsided towards Trump. So this means that the Nevada numbers actually could be a little bit better for Harris than we think. If we look at the white vote, 41 to 55 in Nevada, and we look at the white vote here, 56-43. So that number is basically spot on. In Hispanic votes, 57 to 37 favoring Harris. That's pretty much along what we should expect with Latino or Hispanic voters. The only thing is they don't have black voters. And as you can see in this exit poll, at 7%, black voters are not an insignificant part of the electorate. So if there is missing out of this demographic right here, if there is missing, 7, 12% if we include Asian voters that go heavily toward Harris, that's going to skew it a little bit. So overall, I think this Nevada poll looks all right, but I think it's maybe a little bit more in favor of Trump due to the fact that that male number is just really absolutely far off. Okay, let's go ahead and look at the Arizona poll. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and look at the Arizona poll, and if you can see here, our total number, Kamala Harris is down by 5%, so I think this is outside of the margin of error. But let's go ahead and look at the demographics. So we have men 41 to 55. If we look at the exit poll from 2020, we can see 48 to 50. So this number should probably be a little bit closer. Male voters in Arizona are pretty much split down the middle. They don't overwhelmingly support one side like they might in some other states. Women voters, 48 to 55, favoring Kamala Harris by 3%. That seems about right with what we see, as we can see right here in the exit poll from 2020. So this seems absolutely spot on. Now, when we look at race, it becomes a little bit different. Now, if we look at white voters, we see 56 to 39 for Donald Trump. And if we look at white voters in our thing here, we have 52 to 46. So it's showing Trump building up a little bit of a lead there. So who knows if that's true. But this is the big number. It shows Kamala Harris 49 to 43 with Hispanic voters. But if we look at the exit poll from 2020, it's very much different, 61 to 37. Again, this shows to be a poll that is actually favoring Donald Trump maybe more than the actual electorate itself is going to favor it based on exit polls that are actual voters coming out from 4 years ago. And I don't think we're going to see much of a change in the electorate, maybe with the 25 and under vote, but not with people who have voted in the past. So I think this Arizona poll, again, slightly is skewed in Trump's favor. He can still be leading here, but I think that it's a little bit more that this number is closer and maybe within the margin of error. Okay, so let's go over to the Pennsylvania poll. All right, so as we look at Pennsylvania, we can see it's tied 47 to 47. A lot of the polls out of Pennsylvania, out of the blue wall states, this is the one, as I mentioned, it's just the most stubborn and is not budging. It's really staying in that purple category. If we look at male voters, 55 to 40. If we look at the last exit poll, 55 to 44. So that seems about right. Women voters in Pennsylvania, 53 to 42. Let's see, 55 to 44. So the gender distribution seems absolutely where it should be. Now, if we look at white voters, we see 52% for Donald Trump to 43% for Harris. If we look at the exit poll, where is it? Okay, right here, 57-42. And what was that? 52-43. So this actually might be helping Kamala Harris a little bit. So this demographic might be more going toward Trump, unless we're seeing a change in the electorate. Now, if we're looking at black voters, we see 92 to 7, and we see 84 to 9. So this kind of underestimates the black vote for Kamala Harris. This one, with the little bit of changes that we see, this one seems about okay, and I think that we really can keep Pennsylvania in this purple category. All right, let's go ahead and go to Michigan. Kamala Harris is up by 5. So let's go ahead and, as we're doing with the other ones, compare the exit poll crosstabs to what we have here. So we have 50 to 42 for men. And if we look at men in this one, we have 54 to 40 for the 2020 race. So that seems about right. Women, 54 to 38. Women here, 57 to 43. So that age distribution seems really good and seems to be right on target. If we look at white voters, we see Donald Trump winning 48 to 43. If we look at white voters in this exit poll, we see 55 to 44. So it seems a little bit closer than it should be. So that could actually help Trump out a little bit. We see black voters, 92 to 7, and then 86 to 11. So this, again, like the poll that we just saw out of Pennsylvania, this black vote is maybe being underrepresented a little bit. So overall, this looks like a good poll, has her up by 48-43. I believe that might be outside the margin of error, and I did not see what the margin of error was. Yeah, and just looking back at the data of the people, the numbers that they had, this would be outside of the margin of error. So this is definitely a good number for Kamala Harris. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the last blue wall state, which is Wisconsin, where we have Kamala Harris up 50-44. That is outside of the margin of error, so that puts her in the lead in the state. Now, let's go ahead and look at the crosstabs, because this is interesting, and we're going to look at another poll too, because it's maybe showing some sort of trend in Wisconsin. So we see men are up in this poll for Donald Trump, 52-43. That goes pretty much with, I believe, our exit poll, 54-44 from 2020. The exit poll, that seems fine. If we look at women voters, 55-38, again, 56-43. Actually in almost all these polls, it seems like the gender distribution is kind of spot on. So that is quite interesting. Now, if we look at white voters, you see that we see 49-45 with Kamala Harris leading. Okay. And this might cause pause. This might be like, okay, she's not going to win the white vote. Now, if we look at the exit poll from 2020, we see that the white vote was not exactly a slam dunk for Donald Trump, but we can see that it is 46-52%. So it is a 6% gap, just a 3% swing, and all of a sudden it's tied. Now, I did pull up the most recent New York Times poll from Wisconsin. And in the New York Times poll, we also see Kamala Harris winning with white voters 48-45. So the question is, at Wisconsin, are we starting to see more liberal white voters become the larger majority of white voters, these liberal voters? With the CNN poll, I saw this and I'm like, oh, if this is a one-off, it seems like it's a one-off. But the fact that the exit poll was very close amongst white voters in 2020, and then the New York Times poll also shows her now winning with white voters, we might be seeing this change in Midwestern voters, or at least the western part of the industrial Midwest. So Minnesota, maybe Illinois, maybe Wisconsin, obviously, maybe Iowa as well. So this is a very interesting development. Keep your eyes open. Let's see if these numbers change at all. Now, with this being the case, I have my electoral map here. It has not changed. I'm probably not going to change it much until I start seeing some actual raw data coming in from vote by mail, early voting, see what counties and what people and what political parties are turning out to vote. But I am starting to think that there is going to be a change with the electorate. I'm starting to, even though I did my video on Pennsylvania, and go ahead and check that video out, I'm starting to think that the Democrats' true path to victory is here. Georgia is looking much better for Democrats than it had before. They have both of the Senate seats now. And the Democrats have spent a lot of time, money, and effort in Georgia and North Carolina. I'm kind of surprised how little they're doing in Pennsylvania. They're working Pennsylvania, but it does seem like Georgia is the priority. And they've done a lot out in Nevada as well. And as I mentioned in my Nevada video that I did, once those machines get churning, all of a sudden the Democrats win, even though people like Paul Axel and Sharon Angle and other people show that they're leading in the polls. All of a sudden the machine comes out and the Democrats win. I'm thinking this is the Democrats' fastest and best path to 270 now. I'm now thinking it goes through Georgia. It does not go through Pennsylvania. I still, at this point, say that Democrats win Pennsylvania, but I think Georgia is where this goes. And if Democrats win Nevada, then they only need either North Carolina, Pennsylvania, or Georgia. So Nevada becomes a big key. That means they only need to win one of those three states. If the Democrats win Nevada, Republicans have to win all three of those states, which I don't think is going to happen. All right, so thank you all very much for joining me. I'll see you later in another video. Make sure to subscribe and like and comment below, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.